Good evening again. Call this meeting of the Round Rock Independent School District Board of Trustees back to order. We're back in open session. It's 7:06, and we do have a quorum here. We are coming out of closed session. If we all would rise for the pledges, please. Are there any students here who would like to lead us? Is there a student who would like to step forward? Sure, you want to? Any students anywhere? All right, thank you. Any former service members? Mr. Cruz?
Even though Navy beat Army badly, but all right, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Just to point out that Mr. Cruz is also a former board member, and he was the one who recommended and got us to start saying the Texas pledges, and he's still doing it every other entity across the Central Texas. So thank you for your service and your recommendations. Okay, so with board members, what we're going to do is we're going to go to for board members and for the public, we're going to go to public comments. We're going to take you. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a motion. That's right. We do have a motion coming out. Are there any motions coming out of closed session?
Yes,
Mr. Moses.
Yes, Mr. President. I move the board authorize the administration to advance negotiations and due diligence for district facility needs as discussed in closed session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move forward on facilities as discussed in closed session. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carries 7-0. Any other motions coming out of closed session? All right, thank you. So with that, we are going to do public comments, and we will take the public comments not on the agenda first, and then when we get to we have, I think, 9 of those. Is that right, Ms. Rousseau? I think we have 9. We'll take those comments, and then we have another agenda item. We'll have to take a break again. But anyway, with that, so I'm going to read this statement here. At each regular board meeting, the board will set aside 20 minutes to afford the general public an opportunity to speak to the board regarding matters of concern or interest to the district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. Concerns or complaints regarding specific individuals should not be raised in public forum. They should be considered separately according to applicable board policies. The board requests that comments on any subject, whether positive or negative, be courteous and respectful. At the time the 20-minute limit is reached, the board will proceed to other business and persons who have not yet spoken, and they will be rescheduled to a latter part of the meeting in the public communication section. I'd like to remind the audience and the viewers that the comments of the speakers reflect their own positions or opinions. No audience member will be permitted to engage in any conduct that is disruptive or threatening toward any speaker or other person. The board may not and cannot discuss or act on any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. Therefore, board members may not discuss the comments of speakers. Please understand that a lack of response from board members does not indicate agreement or approval of the comments. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the board. Ms. Gonzalez, Vice President, will be the designated timekeeper, and you have a timekeeper on the podium there as well. So with that, we'll start here first, and our first speaker is Catherine Nicely.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Avalos Nicely. I'm here today with my family, my husband Tim Nicely, and my son Nathan, and my daughter Daniela, which is over there. Let me start by saying we're also Caraway. We are a medium-income family of 4 that decided to live in an area of Austin where we saw that our kids will be exposed to a diverse community and be part of a good school. After listening to last meeting's public testimony, I'm concerned that our family is not being represented when talking about the growth in our school. I feel that assumptions and statements about us renters were made that have created divisiveness in our small community. We have lived in Riata apartments for about 6 years. We used to own a home in South Austin, and after my husband got a job at Apple and my son Nathan was going to start kinder, we decided it was time to move. We visited several elementary schools, and when we visited Caraway and met Shelley Holman, which is the principal back in the day, We found a community where we wanted to stay. We always felt welcome at Caraway and felt part of a big community. It makes me very sad to see how divisive this conversation has become. Caraway, like Spicewood Elementary, is having an increase of kids. Like the demographer stated at the last meeting that y'all had, there has been an increase in growth in the area of single-family homes from 0.4 to 1.1. We can feel the growth and see it. Caraway was built when schools were designed completely different. I want to make sure that this process is inclusive. Keeping the diversity of our school is important. Drawing a line between the houses and apartments will create political and legal risks for the district. I am asking you today to look at all the options when looking at our area. If redrawing of district lines is an option, I want to make sure we look at all the lines and also consider moving some houses to be zoned to Laurel Mountain or Spicewood Elementary. By redrawing lines, I'm also concerned of what will happen when the kids of the single-family homes will age out. Will our school lose funds eventually since there will be less kids? It seems to me that having a sustainable fiscal conservative option should be looked at. There has to be a balanced option where renters and homeowners can be part of this area. They both bring the diversity and financial stability that Caraway needs. On behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank you all for your time and hope everyone's voices are heard regarding the needs of Caraway. I really appreciate the work that you all do because it's very hard, and it's very hard the position that you all are in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nicely. Up next will be Cheyenne Haluzan, and then after that will be Ms. Pamela Oldham.
Hello, my name is Cheyenne Haluzan. This statement is in response to the decision by district administration to replace the Brave logo at Double File Trail Elementary, the plans of which are now moving forward. This entire situation has left me sad and frustrated by the results. I am disappointed in this entire process and propose that policy be put in place to keep this type of chaos from repeating itself in the future. I am of the opinion that the complete change of a school's mascot/logo, which we see as one and the same, should fall under the current policy which was adopted on 4/19/2013, CW Local X Section 12, regarding renaming an existing facility. In the following statement to Mike Parker at the Austin American Statesman and Round Rock Leader, the Executive Director of Communications stated, and I quote, "It is the district's intent that the logo be redesigned to ensure an appropriate representation. What Dr. Flores told Mr. Learned is that if we can be certain the image is not offensive to the Delaware tribe or to the Native Americans in general, and if the campus community wants to keep it, then the logo should remain unchanged, could remain unchanged. But the emphasis is on the if. We do not wish to promote imagery that could reasonably be considered racist or culturally insensitive," end quote. As a community, we did our due diligence. We gathered all the information necessary to keep our Brave logo. We contacted multiple Native American organizations and received their support. We contacted the Delaware Nation and received their support. We contacted the Williamson County Historical Society and gathered information on the historical significance of the Double File Trail and the Delaware Nation who blazed that trail, where subsequently a community was established and flourished into what our community is today. It is thought by many that whitewashing history and erasing Native American imagery is a form of racism and culturally insensitive. We created a petition to gather the thoughts and feelings of the community. Our principal sent out a survey to our school community. The information gathered is the same: overwhelming support of keeping our Brave. All of this information was given to the district for consideration. For the life of me, I can't understand why the community or why the district can turn a deaf ear to the voices of so many in the community. Round Rock ISD is making an overt and concerted choice to ignore the grassroots of this community. Parents are standing up and taking notice, though. The PC culture that you're trying to achieve is not what this community values. We value honesty, respect, traditions, history, love, honor, and grace. And
Thank you,
that's
Ms.
all the time
Haluzan.
I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Up next will be Pamela Oldham, and after that will be Chris Kinman.
As we prepare to celebrate the Nativity narrative, I wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. And I've also noticed that a lot of memes are out about be kind, and I think that's also very important. The other thing that I wanted to mention, though, however, is it's also important to be just. From the same Bible, we look at Jesus expelling the money changers in the temple. Jesus didn't go in and say, can you please leave, or blessed be you all, and here's a flower. He upturned the tables. And that's kind of where advocates and activists come from. We are trying to be just, and we ask that you be just as well in all of your actions. Thank you, and enjoy your holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Oldham. Up next, Mr. Kinman. After that will be Krista Sheffield.
I wanted to address a few points made during last month's meeting, specifically as it pertains to this discussion regarding elementary boundaries. Thanks to the district's Wikipedia page, I can see the elementary boundaries of the district as they looked in 2007. For Caldwell Heights, they are almost unchanged except for carving away north of University to create Terra Vista Elementary. 12 years is a long amount of time. Of the 11 apartment complexes currently in the Caldwell Heights footprint, only one was open in 2007 when the lines were last adjusted. That 11 may seem odd to administration because according to the map provided from Templeton, 3 complexes are shown as under construction, despite 2 of them opening years ago and 1 opening this last summer. A conservative estimate would be around 120 students residing in those 3 complexes, including one that has its own bus. Then there are the 2 apartment complexes that do not exist according to that map that the district has provided, both of which border ACC Round Rock. Finally, you have the 2 high-density complexes that have been approved by the City of Round Rock, but construction has not yet begun, both of which are currently in our footprint. We have one neighborhood currently zoned to our school that is physically closer to 10 other elementary schools. That's 1 out of every 3 elementary schools in this district is closer to this neighborhood than Caldwell Heights. All but 2 of those 10 schools are currently under capacity, including the school that is closest to that neighborhood, which is Berkman. As a school, we have the 2nd lowest median household income at $46,500 according to TEA, and the 3rd highest single-parent household percentage at 46%. You may not hear from our parents like you do from the Caraway parents simply because they cannot afford to come advocate due to economic and personal circumstance. But that doesn't mean that they don't care, and it shouldn't mean, as the current discussion and poor data used in the decision-making process suggests, that they don't matter. The biggest difference between Caraway and Caldwell, finances aside, is we have a school exactly a mile away from us that is currently at 81% brick and mortar capacity. That does not involve crossing a geographic barrier like 183. Union Hill is in the same neighborhood, and for some of our students is literally down the hill from their homes. I suggest the board adopt a policy that when a school exceeds 115% brick and mortar capacity, a boundary reevaluation is begun to avoid having schools grow to the point where something should have been done years prior and leaving us playing catch-up in the lurch.
Thank you, Mr. Kinman. Up next will be Krista Sheffield. After that will be Matt Kepler.
Good evening. My name is Krista Sheffield, and I'm joined by Aaron Franz, who could not attend tonight. We're concerned parents of Caraway Elementary students. We have written and spoken to you before about the many problems facing our school, and tonight I want to take the opportunity to now speak on behalf of a group of concerned parents of Caraway Elementary students, a group we are naming We Care About Caraway. Our group is focused on bringing our whole community together to bring public attention to the numerous challenges Caraway faces. We understand how quickly an issue like overcrowding can become divisive. We want to emphasize that we are not advocating for a specific solution. We feel confident that we can work together with the board to find the methods that can provide relief, and we trust that the board has the resources and knowledge to find those effective solutions. Our goal is to bring our whole community together to work with the board to ensure fair and equal solutions while considering the best interest of all of Caraway students. The challenges facing Caraway adversely affect every Caraway child. We hope that our entire community can come together as one and ask for the help we so desperately need. We are calling upon the board and the district to provide immediate action and relief starting fall 2020. For those on the board who do not know, we live in an area of Northwest Austin which has experienced unprecedented growth in the last 5 years. Tech companies such as IBM, Apple, and Visa have moved into the area, drastically increasing our population. The type of growth that our neighborhood has experienced does not follow the typical patterns of growth that Round Rock sees, that of new housing developments. When researching the RISD quarterly demographer reports, it became clear why our growth has not been yet addressed. The demographer reports only look at new housing as a marker for population growth. In established urban settings like ours, growth occurs when older neighborhoods, housing, and apartments turn over to younger families, thus increasing our yield per household to an untenable number. According to the same 2019 RISD demographer report by Mark Kanya, Caraway is 40% overcapacity with projections still growing. There are other elementary schools in the district whose needs are being addressed. We are simply asking for equitability across the district. We've already submitted to you the many concerns that we face. These include intervention and special services having to work with children in hallways due to lack of classroom space, tag for lower grades using a closet as a classroom, and PE being conducted in the cafeteria and hallways. All students are being affected by this overcrowding, but our most sensitive and underserved populations, ESL, intervention, FAC, SPED, ECSE, and TAG, are suffering the most through overcrowding and a lack of facilities and staffing. We truly, truly appreciate how hard you all work to represent all students fairly. We trust that you will continue to advocate for all of the students in your district, and we hope to work with you to provide Caraway with immediate relief to our overcrowding. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheffield. Up next will be Matt Kepler, and then after that will be Brandon Falls, I think.
Good evening. So I'm back representing Caraway. I appreciate you guys taking the time to respond to emails and respond to the community. I really do feel like you guys are listening and hope that it turns into action, right? The proof of the pudding is in the eating of it. And I'm sure that the administration now, it seems, is generating potential plans for how we can mitigate overcrowding at Caraway. So I want to make sure that those plans get presented in a timely manner so that we can move the process forward to affect the enrollment in 2020, because it's going to get worse every year, year on year. So if it's not this time, it's going to have to be next time. It's going to have to be addressed. So anyway, I wanted to come by and say thank you for listening, and I'll continue to be involved in the process, and I'm really hoping that we can end up with some good results come fall of 2020. So thank you to the administration here as well. I know that you guys have some deep resources to look into all the possible options. So thank you too as well. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Kepler. Up next will be Brandon Falls, I think is what it is. And this will be our last speaker for the items not on the agenda.
Thank you. My name is Brandon Falls. I have two boys who attend Caraway Elementary, and as the other parents have stated, I agree that our overcrowding needs immediate attention. And I just wanted to say that I'm confident that this board will help us find a solution, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Falls. All right, that concludes our speakers for items not on the agenda, and we have two more that are related to an agenda item later on, so we'll address those at that time. All right, board members, we will go to agenda item F1, election of board officers, trustee officers. So with that, Mr. Math.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to nominate Amy Weir for board president.
I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for Amy Weir to be board president. Are there any other nominees?
Mr. President, I nominate Amber Feller for board president.
Okay. You got a nomination for Amber Feller to be board president?
Second.
And we got a second. Okay, thank you. Any other nominations for board president? All right, so what we'll do is we'll go with the order that we were received in. So we have a motion and a second for Ms. Weir, Amy Weir, to be board president. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries 4-3. So with that, I don't believe we need to go to the second. So anyway, Ms. Weir, congratulations. What we'll do is I will go ahead and carry out the rest of these nominations, if that's all right. Then we're going to take a quick break, go out and take a picture, and then we'll come back and rearrange the dais here. And but with that, okay. So with that, any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Steve Math for vice president.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion for Steve Math to be vice president and a second. Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. All those in favor of Steve Math being vice president, please raise your hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Did you vote? I didn't see. Okay, so motion passes 5-2. Is that right? All right. Congratulations, Mr. Math, vice president. Thank you. And nominations for secretary. Any motions or nominations for secretary? Mr. Math, is your light on, sir?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Amber Feller for board secretary.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for Amber Feller to be board secretary. Any other nominations? Hearing none, the nominations are closed. All those in favor for Ms. Feller to be board secretary, raise your hand. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, Ms. Feller. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. I'd like to say thank you to my fellow board members, to the staff, to all the audience participants for letting me serve again as board president. It's been an honor. I gladly turn over the keys, the gavel, the whole rules. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And with that, I'll still be on the board. And anyway, I'm always available. You're always going to reach out to me and give me your feedback and input. As always. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll be right back. So 7:28, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm excited. We may be a little more informal, and I'm not sure how everything works, so I appreciate your patience. It is 7:45, and we are going to come back into session, and we have up our superintendent's report. Dr. Flores.
Thank you, President Weir, and congratulations, and thank you, Mr. Chadwell, for your year of service as well. So thank you. As we move on tonight, we do have one item on our superintendent's report, and that item is an item that we take great pride in, but we also know there's work to do, but we look to the future with great hope as well. So without further ado, let me have Mandy Estes lead us off, and then Kathy and Ryan will assist. So Mandy Estes.
Good evening, President Weir, trustees, and Dr. Flores. Tonight we will be providing you with an update on Goal Progress Measure 5.2. Just as a reminder, this is a progress measure of our larger CCMR goal, and we have a lot to celebrate, and as Dr. Flores said, always work to do as well. We're very proud of our staff and students. You may recall that recently Round Rock ISD was recognized by the Austin Chamber for having the highest college readiness rate in the region, and we certainly could not have done that without the hard work that goes on in our classrooms every day. So I wanted to take a moment and celebrate that great work. And you'll see in the slides the data depicted that was the catalyst for that recommendation. For tonight, though, we are going to focus on only one part of that CCMR goal. You may remember that the CCMR can be college, career, and military readiness, can be demonstrated by our students in 11 different ways. By scoring a criterion, meeting a criterion on the SAT or the AP or IB exam, by enlisting in the military, by earning an industry-based certification, and by demonstrating college readiness in reading and math on an exam. And so tonight, that last one, demonstrating college readiness on reading and math, will be the focus of this presentation. We'll be sharing information with you about the status of our current seniors' performance. One piece that I did want to remind you before this kicks off is that this is a constantly evolving number. As our seniors and other students continue to take the TSI exam during the course of the school year, we'll see these numbers change over time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kathy Malerba.
Good evening, President Weir, trustees, and Dr. Flores. Back tonight with the next goal progress measure in our annual cycle. Mandy did a great job of teeing everything up, but we do have on the screen just the overarching goal and then the GPM that we'll be discussing tonight. And I want to thank you all in advance for reading the report, sending me good questions, and I hope I answered them for the most part, though I'll try to kind of re-explain the request that I have for you to make a minor adjustment to this GPM. So first, just start with a little bit of state-regional comparison over the last 3 graduating classes that have been final for TEA. So many of you weren't on the board yet in 16 and 17, but it was the class of 16 was the last class that had the college readiness ratings associated with the index system. 17 and 18 classes have had the new one that we're getting used to with A through F with more indicators and the 11 indicators. And as you can see over time, the state and region have been making progress, but the district's been making even faster progress and scoring very well in comparison to those other 2 groups. So if we were only talking about the GPM itself tonight, we would be talking about those 3 dots you see there. We actually extracted this data back in November because it takes a while to pull the whole report together. So at that time, in mid-November, early mid-November, we had 76% of the senior class was college ready in reading, 64% in math, and 61% ready in both, which is the final metric that TEA is looking for. To compare that to previous senior classes, and this is kind of teeing up the recommendation that I have to make, by the end of the year, we would expect similar levels of growth and end up at around, at least 81% or so in reading, 74% in math with last year's class, and 70 in both. So that 70% in both reading and math would be the foundation of our recommendation to monitor the entire senior class. As I explained in my report and in answers to your questions, I think this makes sense for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's what we would be reporting to you anyway, because these are the students in our classrooms now that we're working with, that we're moving towards college readiness. It's still very tightly aligned to the state accountability system because the entire senior class is monitored in the Closing the Gaps domain, and working the senior class will help you meet the goals for graduates as well. But probably the most important reason for the Lone Star process that we've been working is that we wouldn't have a lag in reporting to you the final results. The results would be available once school was over and maybe towards the end of the summer to catch a few more success graduates, for example. But all very actionable, all very aligned to accountability and the work that we do every day. So what I'm recommending to you is that we just adjust to monitoring the entire senior class. The baseline would be 70% from last year's senior class, and that would adjust our 10-point target to 80% by 2024. So I can let you all think about that a little bit, hand things over to Ryan, who can talk to you about how we're working this goal, both in short and long-term strategies, and then I'll give you the opportunity to consent or not consent on the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Dr. Malerba. Yeah, it's my pleasure to share some of the district-wide as well as some of the different processes and strategies we have taking place on some of the campuses, both at high school and long-term planning, with our students who are currently in elementary and middle school as they head on to that college experience. I'm just going to go over a few of the things that we're doing as district-wide, just so everybody's aware. In October we do PSAT day for all 10th and 11th graders as a preparation for that SAT, ACT, or TSI, or whatever exam they're going to take next. We do offer as a partnership with College Board the Khan Academy resource for our students. They have a promotion, Did You Do Your 22, that our counselors and our AVID teachers and our high school teachers and principals are definitely promoting with our families, that if you do your 20 or 22 hours of Khan Academy content, there's an average of about 115-point increase on your SAT score. So it's a valuable resource that we provide for all of our families and students. Coming up in March, as we've done for the last several years, we have SAT days, so all 11th graders will be taking the SAT on campuses. A lot of students will meet their college readiness on that day. AVID classes, again, they get access to Princeton Review, as well as a lot of SAT preparation resources. A lot of those Princeton Review resources are also being shared with our students after school and on Saturdays by our teachers. It's another opportunity that we have. Our college prep language, arts, and mathematics courses, those are courses we offer to seniors who are not yet, haven't met their college readiness, either through SAT, ACT, TSI already, another avenue. That's a course that they take during their senior year. And we actually embed most of the college readiness strategies and ideas into that first semester, test them again before heading into that second semester, and then actually course code them into that college preparatory class in the spring. The idea behind that is it definitely doesn't necessarily help your college admission to have that class on your transcript, so we do everything we can to get students through that bar before actually course coding them into that class. And then finally, at a district level, we're always working in our curriculum department, does a great job of adding test item bank, test questions essentially, that our teachers can then use to create their own common assessments on campuses as they're working through a backwards design model of starting with the end in mind, essentially, with an assessment, and making sure that the level of rigor that we're working with our students is at that SAT, ACT college readiness level. And one of the hardest parts about that is actually writing the test items. So that's a piece that we take on and provide a lot of times for teachers, so they can focus as much on the delivery and the instruction as on actually writing a quality test question, which is a lot harder than it sounds. And then just some things happening on campuses also just wanted to share. Again, embedding TSI and SAT type questions into Algebra 2, English 3. Really these are some of the strategies that we have in place for students who have gotten to that point and still need some extra support. And again, in May, one thing about TSI for students who haven't met that metric already, but maybe have already taken TSI, you can be very targeted at how you intervene at that point. They don't have to retake the entire test. They can retake portions of that test. So we don't want to, we want to make sure we're creating more of a personalized approach to how we intervene for those students. So it's not going over everything again, but they can target where they need to catch up. Again, counselors, campus testing coordinators, providing the information. A lot of our parent outreach, making sure that our parents know about some of the resources that we're providing, as well as our students. At that point, making sure that they, and most of them are. I think we've been doing a good job of communicating that out. They're well attended. And then TSI testing can be administered as many times as we can get the students to take it during their senior year. We offer that free of charge, and again, that happens on campuses. And then again, like I said, being able to target that instruction. But then really some of our longer term efforts up here is we're really ideally, our students are meeting that metric through SAT and ACT. And the way that they're going to get to that point is through strong, rigorous instruction from elementary school. So looking back at some of the things you've heard about in some of our other presentations, raising that level of rigor in our math pathways is trying to get as many students as we can into advanced math courses early in their career. I think we'll start seeing real dividends in the next several years as those students get to high school in this area. Incorporating additional college readiness instructional strategies within our ARC, that Aligned Round Rock curriculum. Remember, that's the resource that we create for our teachers to use throughout their instruction. Looking at some other potential ideas for next year, potential summer academy for students going into their senior year who have not yet met that college readiness mark that they can come to over the summer and prepare to take that TSI exam in the fall of their senior year. And then, again, always as we push down farther into middle school and elementary school is building that culture and that which we have a very strong college culture already, but continuing to build that down into middle school and high school. About when you get to high school, we do want to be taking dual credit classes, AP classes, on-ramps, things that are going to get us in that college mindset, and all those strategies together will result in higher college readiness rates. And those are a lot of the, like I said, different short-term and long-term strategies that we have in place. So that's our report for today, and we would take any questions.
Ms. Vessa?
So if we go back to slide 3, I'd actually sent you this question, but I really thought it was something that more people should hear about. We have some massive gains between 2017 and 2018, and so I thought it would be helpful for you to share what happened. How did we get, 10% improvement on math and 5% improvement on reading in 1 year? And the previous year, we had a reading improvement of 11%. I mean, over the 3 years, we're looking at an improvement of 14%. That's huge. How do we do that?
I can answer some of the just data and access questions, and then I'll have to turn it over to my colleagues. But one thing that my team contributed to over this period was the development of an internal monitoring system. So we really had to work with the report writing team in MIS to take all the data that we had across SAT, ACT, and TSI and find and pull it together, figure out if students were college ready across all of those tests, and then made that a real-time report that campuses could run. So it just got a lot easier to monitor college readiness. Not that our campus testing coordinators weren't doing their very best before that. Also, having every campus become a TSI testing center made a big difference. I mean, just having the access to test, look at your areas where you needed to work, and test again made a big, big difference for students.
So does that mean that the area around the area, they didn't necessarily do those same things? Because it would seem like that having a testing site on a campus isn't something that's necessarily unique to us. I don't know if they did the same work of terms of the data data provision to the campuses to make sure they were tracking it.
I don't know if we'd be able to say. I'm not familiar with what other campuses did or did not do during that time. I would add that we also, during those 2 years, began making a really concerted effort to push information to parents and students. We've partnered with our community relations department to make sure that we're really pushing Khan Academy. And so, along with the convenience of data and the access to the assessment, I think we've done a lot of work in that communication and marketing campaign as well. And we've also, during that same time period, done a lot of work within the ARC to embed strategies and, as Brian referred to some questions for teachers to use that were SAT-like questions. And so I think that is a subtle change, but I think it's an important change, too, because that impacts the instruction that's going on in the classroom.
I just wanted to say, sorry. Oh, if you're going to go, and then I'll also.
I was just going to say that all I would add to that is that when I talk to my colleagues from other districts, they're always incredibly impressed with the access, and it's really an ease of availability to data that Dr. Malerba and her team provide for our campuses. That's not everybody they're doing a great job, but I think we're doing an excellent job of because it's a matter of making it easy for our teachers and principals to do what they need to do, and their department does a great job of that.
I would echo that your reports are really great. When I look at other districts' reports, we're better. But I want to give a little bit of context to, it might seem, based on our backgrounds, being people in this room who took the SAT back in the day, it was a different test. We're not talking about the same test. The test that's an SAT right now is not the same test that it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. That we were quizzed on vocabulary. That's out. There was a lot of backdoor strategies that you could use to manipulate the math section. That's gone. And why do I know this? Because when I went in college and in grad school, that's what I did. I taught test prep. And so now as I'm preparing my kids and I'm looking at these tests, it's not the same test. It's not the same test that I taught. Like the strategies that I use to help kids kind of game the test, they're gone. Like they've stopped them. So I just wanted to kind of give some context there too. Like we think that this is the same test that we took. It is not the same test that we took. It's a different test.
Agree.
Are there any other questions? Oh, sorry. I don't think it's lighting up. Go, Mr. Moses.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you all for the report and the presentation. And this is one of the strong suits of Round Rock ISD, and it's great that we're celebrating this, looking at it. But one question I had, and I kind of got to it in the questions I sent in, but I want to kind of zero in on it. Now, you look out here at the senior class of 2024, those are 8th graders today. So can you talk a little bit about what we're doing at our middle schools and a little bit more about what we're doing with our 8th graders, since we had the most time with them to get to that goal. Our juniors and seniors, it's a lot shorter time window. We have some time there with those students. And if you need to kind of get some other stuff, I get it, but I just want to...
Yeah, I can speak in broad strokes, on that, around our 11 middle schools, but I'd say as we continue, I can speak to math specifically, maybe, because that's definitely where, around the state and in the region where we can see the most growth, is that I think we're already starting to see in our 8th grade performance the increase in number of students who are in algebra, in 8th grade. I think it's going to continue to see this number rise year over year. And the way that our instructional coaches and our campus principals, the instructional leaders on our campuses, I think are supporting our 8th grade teachers, in the way that as students we're continuing to push our students, I think it's just as important that we're providing the support, for our teachers, because their ability to differentiate is much more important now than it might have been several years ago when there were more students maybe in an on-level math class and fewer students in algebra. Now they have more students in algebra that might not have had the same path as students they were used to having in algebra. So I think the concerted kind of efforts around the curriculum that we provide and then the support is going to support those kids in those advanced classes. And I think it's not a quick fix. It's a long, that's why I really wanted us to have a long game slide, because this is not a quick fix kind of metric. This is going to be over a period of years to see that growth.
Again, I just want to thank you all for the work you are doing on this, and also a real big shout out to our teachers and our staff and our administrators for really making this a priority at our campuses, and thank you to our parents for partnering with us and making sure they're getting their kids at home prepared as well. So, thank you all.
And I'm not sure if I'm understanding the button. So did anybody else press the button? I just had one quick question. Actually, this was for you, Ms. Estes. Now that we have Flex on the high schools, as you were talking, it dawned on me that we have that period of time now for kids that may not have access to computers at home and be able to do Khan Academy. Is that something that we're sort of looking to maybe utilize that time to try to help them with these?
Yes, absolutely. And it depends on each campus because they design their Flex around their campus needs. But that time is very much used for SEL and for academic intervention as well, and for team building with the students. And so absolutely. Khan Academy is something that we feel like we can't market enough because it does show that 115 point bump in the SAT. I believe the number is 20 hours, but we market Did You Get Your 22 to try to promote that with our students. So, yes.
Do all our campuses have Flex?
That I'm not sure. No. 3 of 5. 3 of 5.
So it's Westwood, McNeil, and Cedar Ridge. Okay. Then maybe we should explain what Flex is to people who are watching that don't know what it is.
I don't know if you want to explain it. I mean, I love it at McNeil, so please, just real quick.
It's sort of like an advisory period would be the closest that I could explain. And kids are allowed, I believe, to go different areas based on their needs. We also have experimented with it, or several of our middle schools are running a Flex-like schedule as well.
I would add that it's a period where you can go in to get extra help in a certain class, that you can make up a test if you've been absent as a result of an extracurricular activity. That way, students who have maybe couldn't get to school early or stay late because of transportation issues or other commitments could then still be able to make up tests, get extra help. And so they created this space in the schedule by trimming a few minutes off of each block so that there would be time in the day for what they call flex. And you can flex into other classes, and it's all online, and they register to go to different classes based on their need. And my son at Westwood, this is the first year at Westwood, and the campus response from all the parents I've talked to has been overwhelmingly positive. I haven't heard one person say they didn't like it. So,
Mr. Yonkers making eyes at me, so I'm going to say the same for our meal. We all love it. Dr. Flores, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, if you go back to slide 3 real quick, I just want those in the audience and everyone again, and thanks for highlighting slide 3, Trustee Vessa. When you look at that, let that sink in for a second. You see the state, you see the region, and then you see the district. And obviously we want to think about 100% because all means all. But it's obvious, too, through the work of the Austin Chamber. We also are working not only direct to college, and that rate at 70% is the goal for the region, but they're also working on direct to work 30%. And when you add those, that's 100%. So I see Sherry Bonds, and she wanted to make sure that she realized, that we all realize that as much as 100% should be college ready, we also know that 100% will not be attending. Even those that are ready because of options that, through a skilled workforce and through the things that are necessary for us to get our students certificated for high level and high paying jobs. So I think the district's looking at that as well. But I just want everybody to let that sink in for a second. And yes, that should be 100%. But thank goodness for the great schools that we have. And also, when you see, this is also the continuation of what you see from elementary. Yes, we talk about gaps, and we should spend a lot of time on that gap analysis. But I also want us to realize that what our job is to do is to not only close those gaps, but as they progress through our district, those that are continuously enrolled, they will be, I think, fine, and they will be part of that high degree or that number as well. So it's a continual process. I just want to thank our campus, our teachers, and also our community for valuing that type of public education. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. So we will move on now on our agenda. Item H, we have nothing. So we will skip that one and go to item I, our action items for consideration by consent. Do we have any motions?
See my button?
Oh, sorry. I don't think they're lighting up. Maybe I can't tell. Okay. Mr. Chadwell?
I was going to make a motion unless somebody had a comment, but otherwise I move to approve action items I1 through 8 by consideration consent, but I do have a comment after we get a second on that. So. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Chadwell and a second by Ms. Feller. Now, is there any discussion?
I was going to make a quick comment of thanks to trustees Vesta and Gonzalez, as well as Ms. Estes, as well as people on the DAC, our principals, and Equity Task Force for weighing in on the AE local policy. That's been a labor of love, especially as we go through Lone Star governance. So I just want to give a shout out to those folks and the input and work they gave to bring that together. So thank you all.
Mr. Chadwell?
Yeah, my comment is related to AE Local, and on page of that, where did it go? Where we have the dates in there. Do we normally put dates on page 2 of 4, where we put the actual dates in policy? I don't remember us doing that in the past, just because these policies age so quickly. You know, we have so many policies. So in the future, we can adopt this, of course, as it is, but next year at this time, does this mean we have to go in and adjust again? So I'm not saying we need to change it, but going forward, my recommendation is that we have a way that there's no date and actual numbers because we may want to change the date and the numbers next year. So that's my comment.
Are you talking about on just on the second page where it's our goals?
It says board's student outcome goals.
Right. So that, I mean,
And-
I think we have the dates in there because that's what we have in our goal
Right.
progress measures. So.
But I'm just saying, normally in policies, we don't have dates and numbers, but this is fine as it is.
Well, I also just want to say we're continuing to develop this document in terms of making modifications. Like we have additional superintendent constraints that we're looking at. So this is still a working document in terms of we're going to come back to this in short order, honestly.
Right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of items I-1 through 8, signifying by raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. So now we go to item J1. We do have 2 speakers on this topic. Since Mr. Chadwell already read, I'm going to hope that y'all just remember the rules because I'm not sure where the instructions are. So our first speaker is going to be Lisa Moore, and then after that will be Pam Oldham.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Moore. And first off, I want to thank this board for doing what I believe personally was your due diligence to reach back out to Williamson County with a revenue neutral contract. As we all know through the media, they would not even discuss it. I believe that they sent a message back to this school board and to this district. I believe that they chose to disregard the safety and security of students and teachers of Round Rock ISD, and they chose to send a message instead. And the reason that I believe that and why that's so important to consider in your decisions moving forward, county commissioner judges and county commissioners and sheriffs and superintendents and board members, you're a revolving door. You will change. But what will remain is the students and teachers of this ISD that deserve to have the best safety and security for them. Water under the bridge. So as we move forward, I would encourage you to refer back to, as I believe is a superb 120-plus page report that you received from the Safety and Security Task Force. I would urge you to look back at those essential components and think long and hard about how you're going to implement them. I would urge you to look back at the PD option and look at that oversight. So very important. So very important. If this board does not have a clear and concise policy written right now for a Round Rock ISD PD, tonight should only be discussion for you. That is going to be paramount and so important. I want to take you back, and here's a reason why. I believe in our task force presentation, we delivered you a lot of information, a lot of research. And I believe that everyone, first of all, everyone should really understand that there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. But I want to take you back to November the 11th, when your highest ranking leadership managed to deliver a message of fear and intimidation to specific board members and named members of this community through a grievance of your own legal counsel. Something is foul.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Ms. Oldham?
once again, a safety and security plan is being discussed with possible action and has not been posted for the public. This harkens back to the way this entire process has taken place over the last 3 years. We started with lies, deceit, progressing to cheating, smearing opponents, smearing advocates, smearing activists, concealment. That's the foundation upon which the district's proposal has been built. The idea that we could come here today with no public input after a meeting that took place earlier this week is ludicrous. If the board wants any measure of oversight at all, those policies have to be crafted now before the enabling vote takes place. Don't allow senior management, the superintendent, or other board members to force a vote tonight. Despite what they say, this isn't an emergency. They have been screaming emergency since May 2017. It was an emergency then. It's not an emergency now. Waiting a month is not going to hurt anything. School is out for 2 weeks anyway. What's the rush? You will not have, despite folks saying this right clear back from May 2017, you will not have any oversight of any department unless you have those policies in place. You can listen, you can hear complaints and everything else, but as you know, you just passed a policy that says thou shalt not interfere with the district, thou shalt not direct the district, thou shalt not get involved in departments. Well, that would be a department. By statute, any ISD police department would report to one person, and you'll only review him once a year. Please take time to evaluate all the options presented by the task force, including mental health, which now has become, let's look for mental illness. The community does not want an ISDPD. That has been cleared from the start, and for good reason. However, if you believe that there is no other choice, then certainly don't hand over the keys and ignore the justice that's required for the students, staff, and the citizens of this community.
Thank you. And Dr. Flores, there's no name on our, so I'm going to turn this over to you now for the beginning of the discussion.
You bet. We would have really liked to have a robust presentation, but obviously a Tuesday vote, and I just want to thank Williamson County for their consideration. Whatever that outcome was obviously their choosing, so I respect that. I heard a couple of speakers tonight, and they said that that we can't wait, and that we can't move fast or too fast. I would remind this board that June of 18, we knew exactly where we were. We had thought we had made some great decisions. I'm glad for the work of the Citizens Task Force and all that took part. But there is a point where, as a district, we need to move forward. And I do believe that the sooner that we have clear guidance from this board in the direction that we want to go, the safer we will be when this transition is completed, because obviously the option of Williamson County was not here. And I don't know, Ms. Moore, I do have one question. The essential components, and I do think the document that the task force created was really a lot of intensive work that was really spot on, so I want to commend you for that. But you mentioned the essential components, and we do think that we will be able to address most, if not all, we'll see. But at the same time, my question was, that was not even something that Williamson County was even going to possibly even consider, or were they going to consider, because I don't think in the MOU it was something that was discussed. So that's a question maybe for the board or for Dr. Presley. I don't remember the essential components as being something that the Williamson County Sheriff's Department was going to be looking at.
Did you want Ms. Moore to
Yes,
come down? And
yes. I did that because I do think if that's something that, because we will be looking at that. I think that the whole task force recommendations will definitely be something we need to look at. So I don't know, Ms. Moore.
You just turned. Yeah, it was already on.
Oh, here we go. I hope that we were very clear in our message to you that safety and security of students and teachers in Round Rock ISD is not just about policing or SROs. There is so much more. So much more. And if you really read that report from start to finish, you would understand that. And I think that we give a false sense of security to this community, to parents, to teachers, to students, when we say that SROs and policing solves the safety and security issues that Round Rock ISD has. That is not true. That gives a false sense of security.
No, I'm sorry. Let me just redirect my question. And I mean, if we don't have an answer to that, I was just going to say the essential components that are so critical to the work of the task force was the expectation also that the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, was that going to be an option for them? Because as we look at this, we want to be as flexible as possible, and we want to honor a lot of the work. So we want to work together.
All right. And so what you need to understand is that we always said that the essential components, that was the due diligence of this district. That was the due diligence of this district. The district holds those. Those are your responsibilities. And when you bring somebody into your house, there's a clear delineation of what law enforcement can do. And once again, if you really truly understand the definition of safety and security of students, it's not all just about law enforcement. There's a lot of areas where your students need to be safe and secure that have nothing to do with law enforcement. And if you miss that picture and if you miss that message, it'll be a huge fail. And perhaps, this community even needs to be educated about what is safety and security. It's not just about illegal activity. It's not just about mass shootings. There's so much more that goes on a daily basis in this school that puts our students at risk for safety and security. You need to really redefine and understand the definition of safety and security.
Okay. Mr. Math?
Yeah, just to clarify, my understanding was essential components are just that, essential components. And no matter what option we went with, whether it was a district police department or Wilco or some combination, those are essential components that we should be responsible for regardless. And I do understand that and view them as essential components. Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez. Thank you for the wave, by the way.
So I want to say I couldn't support the MOU that went to Wilco. And one of the reasons for that is because I think it was going to ignore all the work that the task force had done. We were not given the option to have the behavioral health training, to have the bullying training, to have the institutional racism training. And I think this is our time to shape that, to listen to the task force and marry the two, SRO and behavioral health. And I think that's our plan going forward. I feel sure that it is. I just didn't feel like we were going to get that from Williamson County. I don't think they're capable of doing that. So as we go forward, I feel confident, Board, that we will do that, and we will make it something that will be a model for this state.
Thank you. And I think I got it now, and I don't know who pressed first, so we'll just start with Mr. Chadwell.
Okay, so I'll make a follow-up on that. So I did speak the other day to the Commissioner's Court. I spoke on behalf of the board and in favor of the MOU that we put together. Ms. Feller did the bulk of the work, but we had a meeting on October 30th where Ms. Feller and Ms. Weir and I and Mr. Yarborough went and met with the sheriff and the chief deputy. And we talked to him, and essentially was the MOU was a starting point. And I made that statement the other day when I spoke to the Commissioners Court was if it needs to be tweaked, we can tweak it. But one of the issues that was had been brought up in email exchanges was they did not want to be tied into amount of training, a set amount of training. And my statement to them and to everybody was, if we need to tweak it, we can. I respect the fact that they at least put it on their agenda and it got to that point. I wish they would have had some discussion for the public to have heard their reasoning. And Judge Gravel had made a statement before saying that the growth of the county is paramount and a high priority, that they need all their officers. Our offer to them was 27 neutral revenue officers that would have been available on the campuses predominantly, but if they needed to be pulled out for an emergency somewhere else, they would have been available for that. But again, I respect their decision, and is not what I wanted to hear. But I think we are limited in our options, and I mentioned before, I asked if Travis County could do that, and the answer was no. Travis County cannot come onto within Round Rock and the City of Austin campuses. I would like for us to get a confirmation on that if that's a possibility. I would love to take that MOU and go to the commissioners, the Travis County commissioners. I understand that's not an option, but I would like for us to at least make that proposal. And then finally, I'll say that back to the community task force, you all did an excellent job. I think we'd put some criteria on there and we had some deadlines, but this is this is a very comprehensive and very critical decision. School safety and mental health are intertwined, and equity. So the fact that we put a deadline on and it slipped, that doesn't bother me at all. It was very due diligence, and they've done a great job. So with that, I want to say thank you for that. And we have a task ahead, and we have to make a choice one way or the other and where we put our efforts. Back to the essential components, I think they were originally called non-negotiables. I think that's what the word was on that. And, just change the tone to maybe soften it up a little bit. But they are still requirements or goals that we all needed. So anyway, I just want to give a quick update on the meeting that I had the other day and spoke. We had Ms. Feller, Ms. Vessa, and Ms. were in attendance at that meeting. And so I just wanted to give the public a statement and that I did speak on behalf of the board, and I said in favor of the MOU as we had voted on it. It wasn't ideal, and I realize that, but it was a starting point. Thank you.
Ms. Feller? Oh, sorry. Did you not? Wait, I swear it's lit. Okay, Ms. Vessa.
I just wanted to comment a little bit on the timeline, and I think there's a lot of people who say, okay, you don't need to move forward now. You have plenty of time. And I don't necessarily agree with that notion. We have 2 campuses that I am very, very grateful to say are going to remain covered till the end of the year. Canyon Vista Middle School and Pearson Ranch Middle School. Austin Community College has agreed to keep their SROs there through the end of this school year, which I'm so grateful to Dr. Rhodes for agreeing to do that. But once the school year is over, we have to have someone to put there. And if we don't get this process moving, we won't be able to have someone to put there. And I just feel like that is what the reason why we have to take steps, that we can't, we'd all like to have more time, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of time. That doesn't mean that we won't address all of these policies, procedures, make sure everything is that we're incorporating the essential components, but we have to move forward with what we can right now to ensure that those campuses have SROs come the fall of this next school year, because otherwise they won't. And I'm not okay with that. So I feel like we have to at least take the next step. Does that mean we're not going to do all the things that we know we need to do in terms of the essential components? We're going to do all those things, but we have to take the next step to move this process forward so that those campuses are covered when that time, when ACC, that agreement has ended, and we need to have officers in those schools to continue coverage on those campuses.
Thank you. I do not see any other lights, but did you really? Okay, Mr. Moses.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to really concur with a lot of what Trustee Vesta just said. I think that was very well put. I think it's also worth noting that there are even some campuses that fall under our other partners that are uncovered or have limited coverage due to the manpower that are being provided. So we need to make sure, not just those two, but other campuses that are either sharing or have gaps in coverage, that those are addressed before next school year. And so I do think that the task force did some really great work that I have confidence we folded in as we continue down this path. But I agree, we need to start acting now. And I do also want to commend Jeffrey Yarborough and Amy Grosso. They've done a great presentation. I've saw it at the Pi Foundation retreat, saw it at the PTSA luncheon. I've seen that a couple other times. And so I know we're looking at, in the new year, doing some more community roundtables and some of those events. I think having those two present on this topic, because they really do a great job of marrying school safety and behavioral health together, I think that really will help set the tone for what we're trying to do here as we move forward. So, Dr. Flores, that's just a recommendation as we move forward with these items.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Trustee Feller, because I know it was a lot of work to do that MOU, and there was a lot of back and forth with, even on the last day that we had to get it in for it to be approved and even get on the agenda for the Commissioners Court. So thank you so much for all of your work. And I guess my only comment before I ask for the motion is that we're not taking action tonight. We're not approving any specifics. We're not doing anything like that tonight. In October, we asked staff to do 2 tracks, work with Williamson County, and also start looking at our own PD. So we've lost one of those tracks, and I think the only thing that we are going to do tonight is officially remove it and go with our one remaining track. So, Ms. Feller?
So I do have a motion to make, but before I do, I do want to say that I did spend a lot of time working on the MOU, and I don't think that it was in vain. And while I'm disappointed with the action or lack of action that the Commissioners Court took, spent a lot of time working with a lot of different individuals in leadership roles, and overwhelmingly, without a single exception, they want to work with us, how we're moving forward. Sheriff wants to work with us. The Commissioner Courts wants to work with us. Round Rock PD wants to work with us. So Travis County sheriffs want to work with us. City of Austin wants to work with us. So I never felt from anyone this, you ticked us off and we don't want to work with you now. So I thought that was very encouraging. I felt that those relationships were still very vibrant and healthy. Piggyback off what President Weir said is this motion that I want to make really just continues down this path of how do we provide for our safety and security of our students. So, with that being said, I move that the board approve the superintendent to continue to move forward with the formation of a Round Rock ISD Police Department while continuing the transition with the Round Rock Police Department and the Williamson County Sheriff's Department until June 2021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Feller and a second from Mr. Moses. Mr. Chadwell, you had your light on. Did you want to?
I did. I wanted to make a quick comment. So on this is, didn't know this. We were going to have a motion tonight. I helped set the agenda last Friday, and I mentioned this before. Is like, this isn't doing anything that we haven't already given direction to. This is a continuation of the exploring it, and any resolution and what was mentioned earlier, any details of the resolution that we will vote on in January next month. One of the things that I do want to have is make sure that we, just like we have a standing SHAC committee and we have a standing bond oversight committee, then we have a policy committee, we have a facilities committee. I would like for us to have a citizens participation in this development of this resolution and going forward, because we have some people who have dedicated a lot of their time putting together the material for the task force, and people who've shown up to the meetings, and they're digging in and they're bringing information to us, and I want to tap into that. So that was one of the things that I request that we have, is some sort of way for the community to give us their feedback on a regular basis through a committee, through surveys, just a continuation of that, because we have some outstanding resources that are available. And so that's with that. I can support this if we have dedication next month and we vote on a resolution that looks like that we are going to continue to take input from the community. And it could be evolving because we all know that rules, regulations, all kinds of mental health, it all changes. And I want that to be a constantly updated document or feedback that it can be, that we can get input from it across the nation, across the state.
Thank you, Mr. Math.
Yes, I too was very disappointed at what happened Tuesday with the Commissioner's Court, but we are where we are, and we got to play the hand that we're dealt, and we can't gamble with student safety. And I just urge that we be thoughtful and measured in everything we do as we're on this track.
Mr. Moses.
Thank you, Madam President. And I agree with being thoughtful and measured. And just for a little bit of clarification there, Mr. Chadwell, if you will, are you talking about having, and because I do believe that once it is all set up, having a citizen committee to work hand in hand with the police chief and his team is going to be important. That way they have that buy-in. Plus, they know what's going on their campuses from a safety and security and behavioral health standpoint. Are you talking about that once it's set up or as this process is being formed? Because I think as it's being formed, we really need to lean on our safety and security and behavioral health experts in crafting this. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
I think it could be both because, just like I said earlier, we have a standing SHAC, Student Health Advisory Council, and a standing Bond Oversight Committee. Then we have a Facilities Committee, we have a Policy Committee. Those are things that are just kind of ongoing, and I'd like for it to be the same approach. Now, the details can be worked out, but I do want to have citizen input.
And I'm with you as far like whenever it all comes together and having a group like the SHAC and like the Bond Oversight Committee once it's all put together.
I'd certainly like to have them help make sure that all the details, and it should be, if we're following the standard state policies or whatever they're already, it should be a great starting point for that. And I'd like to explore other districts, and do they have community involvement? And it can include students as well, but do they have community oversight and community involvement, I should say it that way.
I just want us to be careful because as we kind of think back on our board constraint too, which is letting the superintendent develop a plan. So I would just recommend let's let the superintendent, he's heard a lot of input tonight, come up with the resolution as he thinks is needed for us to continue moving forward and see that at the appropriate meeting. But I do agree with you as far as when it's all set up, having some type of citizen committee working with the PD there and stay informed of local, state, and national issues.
Okay, we can see what's developed, and as long as it takes all the essential components and everything else on there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Vezza.
I didn't want to close without saying that I really appreciate all the advocacy that people have put into this. It has been a long journey. It's not over, of course, but even up to this point, and there have been so many people who have given input and advocated, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being involved. Thank you for being a part of this process. And I know that you're not going to stop being involved. I know you're going to keep giving input. And for me, I welcome that input. Keep advocating, keep speaking, keep sending emails, keep being a part of this. That, to me, personally, I just believe that is what makes our country great, is that we're all civic, active participants in this process. So I just want to encourage people to continue to be a part of it.
Thank you. I do not see any more lights. All right. So we have a motion and a second. So if there is no further discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? So we're 7-0.
Okay,
You're
thank
good.
you.
Okay. So it passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, we are going to move.
Can I request a pay raise after all the work I did on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you get the same percentage based on what your current rate is
Yes.
as everyone else got.
So I guess we're going to go to K1, and I will go ahead and give this the Facilities Committee report real quick, and then we'll actually have to discuss that at a future point, because I think we will need a new chair for that committee. So we did not have a Facilities Committee meeting this month, as everyone knows. We, in talking with staff, there is a plan sort of coming together for boundaries. January 10th is the next facilities committee meeting. There will be invitations going out to all the board members to come in on that day. The demographer will be available. So everyone can kind of go in and sit down with him and see however you like the math. Friday, January 10th.
So it's a noon meeting?
The facilities is noon to 2, but the demographer, I believe, will be here all day, like 8 to noon.
8 to noon, yeah. So trustees can come in at their leisure to visit with
So
the demographer and staff.
Yeah, so that will get some of the underlying questions, because right now it really is, as I've answered a lot of the emails to the parents, and you probably have too, it's really in staff's court. It's not our court yet. We need to have staff make a recommendation to us and do their public hearing. So, but that will at least get us started, trustees, on February 10th. I know I've answered emails with our earlier date of January 9th and 14th were what we were looking at. Anybody that's still watching, or if they go back, staff is going to need to bump that down a little bit. So January 21st to 31st is when the public hearings will probably be scheduled. And then we will have to come up with a workshop sometime early February, sometime between the 3rd and the 19th. And then we will have February 20th as our regular board meeting. That will be when we will need to vote, because policy hasn't changed, and we must do everything. We must be done before March 1st. So, Ms. Feller, did you have something to add?
I know there was some discussion about possibly moving our January board meeting to allow some more time in that process. Does that still need to happen now that this is the first I'm hearing of this kind of new revised calendar?
Yeah, and this was just for me. I think we're good with this time.
Okay.
And that way, we'll do the January 10th for the board members, rather than trying to schedule with the demographer on one of our dates, and then public hearings will happen, and then we'll get our official recommendation at a workshop, and then it will be back in our court after the official recommendation comes from staff.
And those public forums were rescheduled from the 9th and the 13th to what?
They'll be sometime between the 21st and the 31st. So
so we don't have the dates yet.
We don't have the dates, and that will be a staff thing, just working with the different campuses and figuring out what space is available during those times. But I'm assuming the schools, and it'll go out. I know Jenny does a great job, so I'm sure it will go out on our app, and there'll be individual invitations.
Via policy, we'll communicate out to the schools that are affected, and then do a holistic district communicate out. And then by policy, it has to be published in the newspaper 5 days prior to a hearing. So 5 days prior to any hearing, we'll have to make arrangements to publish that in the local newspaper.
Good times.
I just want to say I like this timeline better. It gives a lot more time for the community to become aware of these meetings and not come right back from Christmas break and everybody's still in that New Year lull, getting ramped back up, and then miss something because of that. So I really appreciate staff really working to change this calendar around. I think it's a lot better for the community. So thank you.
Can you put a note on the website? Because I thought people were thinking of 9th and 13th were the town halls or the community input.
I mean, I have that. Like, I try to put the dates up on my Facebook page as fast as I can so people know in advance.
And I think that they're
so this is like, for me, it's like, oh, what do I do? Now I don't even have 2 dates to change it to. So.
And so, anyway, so I know you're going to make something about the policy, but if this is something that, I don't want it to say it's just this affected schools that, I do want us to look at our policy about boundaries and overcapacity, and once it reaches a number. You ready to go? Okay, I'm going to turn back over to Ms. Weir.
Let me.
All right, go ahead.
Because, sorry, are we good?
Well, the last thing I wanted to say for facilities is not to step over Mr. Math, but I wouldn't mind stepping into that chair role of it. We can talk about it, but I wouldn't mind stepping into that chair.
I won't be occupying that chair. You're welcome to it.
All right. So, we haven't posted that, so we probably can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But okay. Mr. Moses.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, so I'll jump to that first because we did talk about the boundary policy, and as we were going through that, and we did talk about, is there a certain number where we say, once it reaches this % capacity, does that trigger the conversation? And we talked about how the timeline date looked at it, because I think the conversation was like, look, if it's a week later, that's one thing. We don't want to be like, okay, if it's March 1st and March 6th or 7th, especially if the first falls on like a Saturday or Friday. Come on, it's not. But if it's more, okay, this is get too late in the school year though. If we go a whole lot later, where now we're doing this too close into the summer or in the school year, parents are already in that mode. So the proposal was to try and bring that to. I know we had a boundary workshop planned for earlier this month, and that was going to be one of the items on the agenda to talk through those items as a group. So I might suggest either on the 10th, or we can find another night to do a true boundary workshop as a team of 8. That way we can address those items, address the policy as a group coming together that way. I think that would be a good, just kind of basically good use of our.
And I think that's kind of what staff had suggested for the February 3rd through 19th.
Okay.
At least one. I mean, it may. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you think we can get
that
done in
workshop
one?
it needs to take place after we've had the public hearings, so that we can bring information back to the board. If you're not able to attend all of them, of what we're hearing from the community and all the input that we got, and so that's a discussion piece. The only really kind of by backwards design, the February 20th meeting, the way the policy reads now, the final vote has to take place at a regular board meeting. It can't be special called. But the report back to the board about our findings or what we're hearing from the community can be in a workshop or a special called meeting. And so that's why the window's there, that sometime after we've had the public hearings, you guys pick a date, and then we'll share with the board everything we gathered in our public hearings.
And part of that was, I think that was also part of the reason why I was upset that our workshop this month got canceled, because it was saying, well, we could have maybe then had a first read in that policy tonight and then adopted it officially in January. So now that timeline gets a little bit compressed, but we'll work through it. So that'll be one of the first things the PIB will get back to at the first of the year. And then again, I talked about AE Local. Thank you again to all the folks who weighed in on that. That really, that's something that, Dr. Flores, I think my first summer on the board, I came back from a training and started talking to you about a need to look at that. And then we finally got it done. So thank you to everyone there. And then we also had a good conversation with Terry and his team about sustainability and so what we're doing there. And there's some good work they're doing and things they're looking at to improve the sustainability of different items throughout the district. So thank y'all, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
All right. Thank you. It is 8:49.
I want to say real quick.
Oh, hold on.
Let
me just say it's announcements, updates, and requests for future agenda items. And Mr. Math just asked to go first. Okay. So,
yeah, if I could have a moment of personal privilege, I'm here to represent over 50,000 kids, but I want to speak today on behalf of one kid as a proud dad. So my daughter Jessica, who's a junior at Westwood, got a perfect score on the PSAT.
Wow.
So proud dad moment. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Chadwell. Yay, Mr. Math.
So I'm going to say a couple things. One is about all the safety and security. This has been a big issue. It's been ongoing. It's been a long. We had the vote at midnight on June 21st. It was very contentious. We have to move forward with something. So I want to commend all the community, like I said earlier, all of our board, the staff. We have to find some way to go forward. And anyway, so with that, I want to say, and then I know we've always talked about Officer Willoughby over here. We always kind of look at him and we say, well, what does he do? And he runs a great school. It is your birthday, if I understand. So happy birthday, Officer Willoughby. Thank you for your always being here and managing. I just heard that earlier this evening. So thank you for your service to us as well. And, we've got a lot of work ahead of us this coming year. Thankfully, the legislature isn't in, but we've got a lot of budget issues. We're going to start on the budget right away, right? And
in January.
It's going to be difficult. So, anyway.
And then I have one thing from Patty before. Okay, in case you didn't notice, I pulled out my big old calendar. We need to reschedule grievances, and Patty had a couple dates, and she would like us to pick 2. They're mostly Thursdays, but Thursday, January 16th is our regular board meeting, so we have... Oh, well, Patty didn't give me the 9th. I don't know. Patty didn't give me the 9th. I'm going to read the ones that I've been given, and then we can see if the others are available. So the 22nd, 23rd, 30th, which I think Corey's already responded that she could do the 30th, 5th, of February, 11th of February, 13th of February. And we will have to, and just know that sometime in February we will have our boundary meeting too. So the 9th, okay. So if the 9th would work better.
I like the 9th and I like the 30th.
January. So the 9th of January. So if we can pick 2 dates, does the 9th of January work for most people?
9th is good.
Oh.
Yes, we can go back.
Oh, so that's not a good one.
No, it's fine. It's just, she's just clarifying. Oh, okay.
Oh, so you won't know. Okay. So we can't do that one. Okay. Right. So we can't post it in time. So 23rd.
30th of January is good. 23rd is good for me.
I would prefer the 23rd over the 30th. The few days before that are pretty crazy for me, and I'd love it.
So we just heard that there's going to be public hearings the 21st through the 31st. So there's going to be 2 nights that are public hearings during that, and then you're also adding a grievance into that. So just remember that's a lot of evenings giving up in a 1-week span.
My apologies, 23rd is not good. I did not see it on my calendar.
No.
So-
I'm not overruling you. I just
So we're back to my date, the 30th.
Back to the 30th.
The 30th is still in that same window of public hearings.
Yeah, we don't, and we
Towards the
can't
end.
necessarily all be at the
Right.
boundary things anyway. So, and we just need a quorum at the grievances. So,
So why couldn't you post it tomorrow for the 9th, and if you have to cancel it? I mean, do you know that is this going to be all 4 of them? Or is it going to be?
So part of the problem is legal will have to work to schedule everybody, and their last day is tomorrow, and then they don't come back until
6.
right before it. So if they don't get everything
Okay.
scheduled tomorrow, they
Does
can't.
it have to be on, can it be on Monday, the 13th we had is open?
And we don't all have to be here. I
Yeah.
vote for the 23rd.
Okay.
so we have enough people that have the 23rd and the 30th.
Yes.
Would those be? We'd have a quorum on either of those 2 days, Patty.
The 23rd.
Depending on what time we start the 23rd, it could work, but if we start too early, I'm not going to know. But just FYI.
So, and you couldn't do the 23rd, but we
It's
have.
just hard for me. That's a really bad night for me.
But as long as we have 4, we're good. So as long as there's 4 for both the 23rd and the 30th.
Yes,
Why don't we
I'm
start with
available.
those 2, Patty?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are there any other announcements, updates, or requests for future agenda items?
Let's get ready for the budget.
Budgets in January? Okay. This may be a record. Are we done?
Are we going to schedule a budget workshop for January? Is that going to
No.
happen?
We probably will have to, but
So are you thinking in February? Okay,
Well-
probably February budget workshop.
Patty will get something out to us.
Okay.
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 After the break, we'll come up with that schedule. All right. Is that okay? All right. Then we are to L&1, and we do not have anything else in closed session. So we are adjourned at 8:56, and I'm just going to take credit for it. Just